The world of AI, like so much of tech, is built largely by men for men. From research labs to boardrooms to the keynote stages, the faces shaping artificial intelligence are overwhelmingly male. But every once in a while, a pioneer cuts through. And Dame Wendy Hall is exactly that. The first female professor of engineering at the University of Southampton, she co-chaired the UK government's landmark AI review in 2017 and was appointed to the United Nations High-Level Advisory Body on Artificial Intelligence in 2023. Hall is one of the most notable names in hypermedia research. She co-founded the Web Science Research Initiative alongside Tim Berners-Lee, the British computer scientist who invented the World Wide Web. But Hall likes to emphasize that she's a scientist first, and then a necessary fearless voice in a room that only too rarely makes space for women. In the first of our 2 special episodes around International Women's Day, we bring you a recent conversation of my colleague Swati Murthy with Wendy Hall at the recently held India AI Impact Summit. Listen on, it's Friday, the 6th of March. I'm Anirban Chaudhary. This is the Morning Brief.
Hi, Professor. Thanks a lot for joining us. It's great talking to you. It wasn't a lecture at your session, your keynote at the event, AI Summit.
Yeah.
And it was very, very interesting. It was one of the best keynotes I've heard in AI Summit.
Well, thank you. And the thing is I'm not representing a big company.
Yes.
I'm not representing a country. I'm representing me as an academic. And I was very honored to be asked to do it because, I was up there with the gods of AI. It was Yoshua Bengio, Jan LeCun, Demis Hassabis and me, which was a huge honor. But also, I think, good for the subject as well, because at the moment we get everything we know about AI from I call them the tech bros. And it's quite biased sometimes. So anyway, yeah.
See, AI is now likened to the internet. Right now, everybody is like AI is the internet, how it was in the 80s, the 90s. So you have sort of seen the internet and now you're seeing AI. So just trying to understand, how does this wave compare to the previous cycles?
Well, because first of all, the generative AI, that is what the latest sort of AI we're using today, only exists because of the internet. There are several reasons for that. One is because the most of the AI companies were companies that made their money out of the internet. I mean, OpenAI is funded by Microsoft, so and you've got Google and the cloud companies. They're all came about because of the internet, and of course that's where they get the data from, the internet. And we've all put our data onto the internet for good or bad, and that's what they're using to train. And so all this, people think, oh, the web's dead and the web was irrelevant, because we're all accessing the AI through the web. So, well, at least us in the public are. Well, I think the other thing to remember is that people say that GPT and all the others, the fastest growing apps ever. Well, that's because the internet was already there. When the World Wide Web started when Tim put the first website up in 91, there weren't that many people using the internet because there was no reason for your average human, the average person. People in industry were using it for all sorts of things, but it was not anything the public or governments used. The web changed all that because it made it possible to have an easy interface to information on the internet through the hypermedia system that was is the web. And so that caused the number of internet users to go up. And then when ChatGPT came out, it was possible for that to grow very fast. The reason the internet grew were several things. This growth of social machines, where we started using Google and Amazon and all the big as they are platforms now, and interacted with them, gave them our data and got information back or shopping back or whatever. And AI is similar but different. At this point, You're asking for stuff, so you put it, and in asking for stuff, you're giving them more data. They know more about us through our use of ChatGPT or Copilot, whatever, than they ever did from our use of search. They get a lot of data from those interactions, and then we get pros back, and it's very useful. I'm sure you use it yourself. Yeah. You have to check it correct and all these issues, but I am arguing it's the same sort of. We're talking about social machines, and we really, really need to understand how to study them.
So these social machines, so did we study them back then well? And are we studying them now properly so that we don't make the same mistake we did with these internet machines?
Well, exactly. That's what I was trying to say in the keynote. It's not easy. It's not an exact science at all. Mm-hmm. And the problem with studying a social machine, as we found when we developed the discipline of the research concept of web science, which was the study of the World Wide Web as it grew, there's a lot of social science involved. Because people are involved, you can't model in the way you can a weather forecasting system. And because you can't predict what people are actually, how they're going to behave, how they're going to react. That the web was co-created by people and technology, people doing things with the technology, and then the technology firms adapted to that. And then with AI, it's the same, right? But doing the study requires some longitudinal studies. You have to see how things evolve over time. And the companies will say, oh, it's all happening so fast, you can't do that. But I think that's wrong. I think that we have to do that. We're not going to get everything right because it is, we didn't get, with the web, we didn't get how bad social media was going to become. Social media is wonderful, isn't it? We all use it all the time, but the bad stuff, we have all that, and now we've got AI involved as well. So we have to move forward with a combination of study, as I call it, the science of AI, or AI metrology, whatever, and we have to start bringing in governance. I like to talk about governance. Yeah. For example, I think it should be a fairly standard thing to do that if you're two things. One, if you're using AI to produce something, it should be a criminal offence not to declare that you've used AI to do it. And then obviously something like a deliberate deep fake, as these are criminal offences, and people should be fined or put into jail for things if they are committing that sort of offence, as well as the tech companies trying to reduce it, of course.
Professor, you spoke about governance. You've also been working in the governance space for a while. So over the past week, there were a lot of talks about AI safety and governance, how Global South and, non-US, non-China, the companies need to come together, reach, consensus. How do we go about it? Because these companies are not going to stop. They are going to continue at the same pace, even at faster pace, at the breakneck speed to achieve AGI in their term.
We're not good. AGI is a meaningless term. How do you define it? It's their rhetoric.
Ah, okay.
I said it in my talk and I'll say it again. I'm saying it more powerfully. We are going to achieve ever increasingly intelligent AI, but that doesn't mean it's going to have the same sort of intelligence as we have. And there are some things where the AI will have what they call super intelligence. It's more intelligent than us. Just like when the calculator was invented, with calculators and computers, you can do stuff with numbers we can't possibly do. So that makes them more intelligent than us, right?
Correct.
But that doesn't mean we've got superhuman machines. Do you see my point?
Yes, I
don't believe their rhetoric.
But Professor Bendigo and Stuart Russell, seem to argue that, these systems will become intelligent and even threaten the humans, like human extinction. Do you buy into that?
Well, yes, I suppose down the line, many years away, and that's why we have to learn how to control it now before we get that close. But I think we've got time, you see.
Okay, but how do you do that? Because these systems are going to become increasingly intelligent and we don't have any kind of regulation in place already. And
we have to get the independence and governance in place. This is what gets me about the companies. They blindly talk about, they're as responsible for this as we are. Right? Do they want to be responsible for the end of the human race? Well, let's get round the table and talk about it then.
these companies are so resistant? Are they willing to come to the table? Because the last 1 week, I'm just getting the sense that there are two parallel conversations going on. One where these, the larger companies are just talking about how great this system is going to be and how helpful it's to the Indian humanity. And the other parallel conversation where people are sounding alarms and how we need governance. So they just don't seem to overlap, in a sense.
They do. Sam Altman said on Thursday at the World Leaders thing, we need global governance to get this right. And then the US administration came out and said, no, they call it regulation. No, we're not going to talk about it. They wouldn't sign anything in the agreement that was to do with governance or regulation or safety or security, to be honest with you. But that will pass over time because the rest of the world knows we have to do this, including China.
So most of the narrative in AI we are seeing now is shaped by the US and the China. So what is the kind of role Global South can actually play in this?
Okay, but this is good because what I learned, I thought to be honest with you, these big summits are a waste of time and money. They just become glorified tech shows, expos, They're becoming like the COP conferences are,
Yes.
huge road shows where not much is actually agreed and you just waste
Yes.
time, money and air miles. We don't need these, and it won't be like this in Switzerland. But the wonderful thing about coming to India was A, the spotlight on the global south, and B, the numbers of young people and the enthusiasm and optimism of how this technology can be used to help people in India make their life better. And you see, the rhetoric in the West is so gloom and doom all the time. We're all worried about losing our jobs, whereas in India, they're looking at the huge ability to create new jobs. And, it's just a whole different rhetoric. And it was very positive rhetoric here. And I think India being effectively the biggest in the global south, if you don't count China, and you've got you can develop products that can be used throughout the developing world using AI to do things for the good.
I also wanted to understand your point you mentioned, which really stuck with me, is the lack of women representation in AI. You've been a huge proponent of that, and that is also something that I want to touch upon because not many people spoke about it. I was at the stalls, I hardly saw women in the stalls and the expo halls too.
The tech leaders, the World Leaders Day, there was only one woman, a CEO of Accenture, and then there were 2 or 3 women in panels at the end from the diplomatic service type women. All the tech CEOs were men, all the senior politicians were men. The women's voice is just not heard at these conferences. And, I make the point that we're 50% of the population. So when you talk about being all-inclusive, but they aren't all-inclusive. And I don't know how to change it. I mean, I'm a lone voice in many respects. I tried very hard, if you notice.
Yes.
My actual talk was about science, and it was only in the conversation afterwards that I brought up the gender. I don't want to be known as the woman who just talks about the lack of women. I want to be known first and foremost as a scientist. Otherwise, you don't have any credibility.
That's problematic, isn't it? Because you also mentioned about, how these lack of women representation is also, have an impact on how these AI systems are being.
Well, quite. They're designed by men for men. And, women aren't in the conversation. And the bias, of course, is in the data that's absorbed. There's no correction for that either. So there's other biases, of course, but the big one is gender, as I see it. And, it's always been, the computing industry has always been dominated by men, but it's worse with AI.
It's worse with AI.
Yeah, largely when people are taught AI, they're mainly mathematicians and computer scientists. And so you haven't got many computer scientists that are women. And so when you take them forward into advanced studies for AI, there's even less women, So you're narrowing the pipe. And then women just don't enjoy working in an alpha male environment. It wears them down after a while because it's not our world. We don't work like that. You can force yourself to work like that, but it's not actually where our natural instincts lie. And eventually you just get put down and pushed out, and you think, well, this is not how I want to spend my life.
So what do you think can be done? Because you were talking about how we need more women. Is there anything consciously being done to address that, or what can be done to address this issue?
Very difficult. Because it's a long-term thing. You're training the courses, the AI courses are full of men. So it's a vicious circle, because then women see it as something women don't do, just as they did with computing in the early days, and still do to a certain extent. So it's really hard. Sometimes I feel like giving up, but because I'm sort of a bit of a voice in the wilderness, because I have the courage to stand up there and say these things. I don't want to be just a campaigner for women. I want to be known for my science. I want to be a strong role model as someone who can deliver on the science.
If AI does shape every human life on this planet, it cannot be built by only half of humanity. And Wendy Hall is proof that the room needs to change. On that note, we wish you a very happy Women's Day. This episode was produced by Vinay Joshi, sound designed by Amrit Reggie. A new episode of The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. Stay tuned, keep listening.